Hi all, Knife Edge UK here. Going to do a little overview for you as usual today, this time on another piece of slightly unobtainable, drool-worthy knifery, I'm afraid. This is the Cody Hutzler DUKling. This is quite an interesting washer version in it's the V2 spec of the DUKling. As I say, it's running on washers, which at the time of posting this has only been 2, I believe, that Cody has actually done on washers, and it's just a fantastic knife. So without further ado, I'm going to try and go over this nicely and succinctly whilst not missing any of the lovely little details. This knife it's very, very simple, deceivingly simple, and I keep on getting to about 6 minutes into these videos and going, no, I've wasted too much time waffling and I've not really touched on the best bits of the knife. So I'm going to try and be succinct. Apologies if there's a slightly long and slightly rambly one. I know you won't be surprised if you've seen any other videos on this channel, but never mind. Okay, so next to a few size comparisons. I don't have all my normal size comparisons out at the moment, but these will have to do. Ferrum Forge Stinger, MP1 from Hinderer, one of the most commonly day-to-day used knives around here. Another piece of custom knife madness, the Peter Rosenti Nirvana Small 3.0, very similar size knife, and the We Knives Pleroma, again, blade length, we're looking something very similar. And then because I haven't got that many good size comparisons, there it is next to a ruler. You can see that we're looking at around a 3-inch blade. So, Cody Hutzler. Cody Hutzler is an American knife maker. He's been around for some time now, custom knife maker. Most of his work, I believe, is largely CNC driven, but he has kind of a slightly more of a handmade feel about them. It's hard to put into words, but comparing this to a Holt or, you know, something like that, Skiff, it has a slightly more handmade, slightly more old school vibe about it while still being very clean. I have always loved this particular model. This is the DUKling. Incidentally, before we go on to that, to get hold of these, you need to enter lottos, and you need to follow what Cody's doing on his Instagram and on his Facebook group. There's sometimes fastest finger first kind of, you know, sales and, as I say, the lottos that you just have to enter and hope you get lucky. Apart from that, you've got the secondary market, which there's a fairly considerable uplift in cost for, and certainly with a knife like this particular one, which is particularly rare given the fact that it's running on washers, you're not going to come across these very often, unfortunately. It's a real shame because this is such a brilliant and wonderfully utilitarian design, but never the matter. That's that. So the DUKling, I've always loved this model. It started out as, or rather, its compatriot, that'll do, is called the Duk, originally called the daily utility knife. That's where the name came from. The Duke, I think it was actually supposed to be referred to as, but it got called the Duk. And the smaller one came along and was affectionately referred to as the DUKling for obvious reasons. So I've always thought that it's just a perfectly proportioned, very classic knife. I absolutely love the lines on these. The blade is this beautiful clip point, which is just so nicely proportioned. Has a really classic clip with a slight hump over the thumb studs. See, this is why I keep on re-recording these, because I'm just talking nonsense. Over the thumb studs, which is really nice. It's got almost a Sebenza-like quality, but with arguably a little bit more flair. It's like this whole knife, particularly in this kind of rare washer version, it has some vibes of Sebenza, which we'll get onto a bit further when we talk about the washers. So you've got this lovely clip point with these beautiful long-drawn swedges, really nice spine work, it's excellent. This one's a flat ground blade. I believe they also do come in hollow sometimes as well. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's the case. It's beautifully thin behind the edge. This one is in this really nice, subtle stonewash over kind of what looks like a light acid. And this is in Magna Cut. Magna Cut obviously is the kind of steel to conjure with at the moment. It's the one that kind of everyone's talking about, developed by Lauren Thomas of Knife Steel Nerds. It's supposedly a great steel. I haven't spent an awful lot of time with it yet, and let's be honest, this isn't going to be the knife that, you know, really is the one that results in me spending an awful lot of time with it, but, you know, in terms of cutting performance anyway. The handle of this knife is in titanium, in this really nice, slightly reflective tumble. It's got kind of a sleesh buoy kind of look about it. It's contoured really nicely. Hopefully You can see some of the contouring. It's kind of asymmetrically contoured, so it's thicker up here and goes down, so it's just really nicely done. The pivot has a beautiful zirconium collar, which Kody mills in-house. Incidentally, the studs are also zirconium, and Kody does those in-house as well, which is deeply impressive considering how well done those are. They're excellent. Zirconium pivot collar, as I say, with these lovely kind of windows through, very simple hardware tooled on both sides. This is the V2 version of the DUKling, and that's largely denoted, as far as I can tell, by the inclusion of a lock bar insert with an over travel. It works very nicely. I'm not a massive, everything has to have a lock bar insert guy, but it works very well and doesn't seem to be causing any excessive amount of lock bar pressure in order to get a really nice clean lockup. So he's done well with the lock bar geometry. The backspacer and clip are done in this really nice clean blasted titanium, which mirrors the pivots quite nicely, also keeps the weight down as opposed to having a zirconium spacer and clip, which is nice to see. I really like those. The clip is beautifully milled and really, really functional. It's got very good ramp, good tension on the back of it, just works really nicely. And yeah, so that's the whole knife. This particular one, as I say, is running on phosphor bronze washers, and when I took this apart, I was really impressed. Not only, the action will show you straight away that as a washer knife, this is exceptional. This has got no blade play. It's got a perfect detent. You just put pressure on the back, bingo. When you take this down, and if you go over to Kody's Facebook page or my Instagram, you'll find some pictures, hopefully, that I took of the inside of this. And these are captive washers in the way that you would find on something like a Chris Reeve. It's kind of a mixture. You've got perforations in the washers holes like a Sebenza that are kind of done in two concentric rings, and then you have it captured on the stop pin like you would in something like an Incosi. So it's just really, really well done, and Kody is doing all of this washer work in-house, and so I can understand why he doesn't do the washer versions very often, because they must be a heck of a lot more work than the bearing ones. And the action, if you like washer knives and you like fidgety knives, this is exceptional. This is basically as good a bronze washer action as I've ever felt. The blade is not heavy enough that it's just going to drop under its own weight, but it's the lightest of shakes to get it to drop. And the detent is so perfectly tuned. Everything is, yeah, he's done an amazing job on this washer action. It's exceptional, and it makes this knife, for me, one of the absolute favourite knives in my collection. I love bearing actions, very much. I'm a big fan of bearing knives, and I'm a big fan of Teflon washer knives. I think that they can all be absolutely excellent when the knife's well done, and it really is a test of a great maker if they can do a washer knife, particularly a bronze washer knife, as well as this, and do it entirely in-house. Yeah, that really, really impresses me, and it makes this knife one of my favourites, all on its own, really, apart from all the other lovely things about it. One more kind of fine detail which I really like, which I keep on forgetting to mention when I do record things about this, is you can see there's no lock bar relief on the outside, and you can't see it from the side either. It's in there as a little pocket, so it keeps the knife looking incredibly clean from all angles. Again, another really nice small detail that takes this, relatively simple, classic looking, but very refined knife up to the next level. What do I have by way of nitpicks after this kind of glowing, rambling review? Well, I don't really have any, is the honest truth. I suppose I have one tiny nitpick, which is that if I get it in just the right light, you can just see where the blade is masked for the washers when the knife is open. Just. We're talking that sort of level of nitpick here. It's so good in hand, it's so comfortable, it's got such a stunning action. Another small detail, which I've got to mention before I round this up, is the way that the blade perfectly conforms to the handle there. And then on the back, it's perfectly conformed as well. And then this shouldered, I wonder if I can get enough light in there. You have a shouldered stop pin that goes completely inside the blade. And it's just, just little things like that. Yeah, this is a beautifully well thought out knife, and I absolutely love it. It's one of my favourite things in my whole collection as it stands. So there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed that, and I'm sorry it darted all over the place. I just didn't want to miss anything. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye-bye.